Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us for another Fit Nation Lunch and Learn. Super excited to be able to present today. Joining us, we have Shari Castelli. Shari, thank you so much for taking the opportunity in order to be here with Derek and myself today.
Of course, I'm so excited.
Yeah, me as well. And I I had the chance in order to be able to listen to your interview that you had on Good Morning America. A lot of you guys who are listening, maybe you had the chance in order to see her there, sharing some of her tips, tricks, and then presenting a lot of awesome data that's happening within the industry. So yeah, in that interview, what I took away, Shari, was that you have such an awesome role at ClassPass and the ability in order to help fitness professionals to be able to grow their brands. That's exactly what these podcasts are about. Obviously, if you find us online, we have a podcast called How to Grow Your Fitness Business. So we have the best person joining us for this. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Shari, the role and what you do?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. So I'm the Director of Partner Expansion at ClassPass, which for those who may not know, is essentially a membership that connects you to workouts and wellness experiences around the world. So ClassPass gives you access to 30,000 of our partner gym and studios globally, as well as now over 11,000 beauty and wellness experiences, which we've added over the last couple of years with one membership. You can book in person at a top studio that's near to you. You can book a live stream or video on demand class. And also, like I said, a bunch of wellness activities, which is really exciting, from facial to massages, nails, all with one credit card and one app. And so ClassPass was founded in 2013. I started at the company in 2014. So if you can imagine thinking back to how much the industry has grown and evolved over time, I've seen a lot of growth in the almost 7 years I've been at ClassPass, as well as in the industry overall during my time. And right now, in this role, I work with our studio and gym partners and really help them kind of figure out what are the areas of opportunity for growth, whether they're maximizing their existing studio location, trying to open a new studio location, which is really the majority of my focus, or even just adding a new genre or offering, or trying out a new class time, for example, anything that really maximizes their business and helps them grow. And before this role, I was the Director of National Brands at ClassPass, working with our top studios globally. I also taught fitness classes in New York. So definitely very intimately involved in the industry, and certainly with the owners who are directly kind of starting and growing their fitness and wellness businesses.
You guys are looking at data from a bunch of different markets and with a lot of different customers as well. And when you have all of this data, is there any particular pieces that you think is important for a brand to be looking at in order to best position themselves for growth? What type of data is important to be taking a look at?
Yeah, totally. So like you said, the benefit of ClassPass is that we have global insights, but then we also have the ability to zoom in, essentially, I always say, and look at the neighborhood or genre level. And so when we're working with partners, the majority of time, that's what I'm doing, that are looking to open a new location. I specifically look for areas of limited supply and excess demand. So our members, and really most people these days, are looking for variety in their fitness routine. And so the best fitness areas are ones that offer like at least a handful of studios within a certain travel radius. And so we know that we always talk about this travel radius. We know that it's different in different markets. So in New York City, users, most of their reservations occur within a 1 mile radius, for example, but we know in areas of Texas, that radius is about 25 miles. And so we look for and pinpoint areas that don't have enough variety and focus on adding more studios there. And then we can also take a look at the neighborhood level, a more micro level, and see, for example, if there's an area that's really successful. It has a HIIT studio and a Pilates studio and a boxing studio, but is missing yoga entirely. That is kind of a supply gap. So we can identify these areas of supply gaps and really pinpoint our best yoga studios to expand in those locations. And then on a really micro level, for all partners, including our existing partners, we have developed smart tools. So this is really interesting. They're basically algorithms, proprietary algorithms that we provide for free for our partners. And they help automate the process of allocating excess inventory, so spots our partners wouldn't fill on their own, to ClassPass, and then it selects the revenue maximizing price for each spot. So our goal is to kind of, again, sell those spots our partners wouldn't sell on their own, and our algorithms use real-time data to identify how quickly classes are filling compared to previous weeks, and then adjust the price accordingly, again, with the goal of maximizing revenue for our partners so that they can focus on what they're uniquely positioned to do and let us kind of handle the process of maximizing revenue and filling up classes.
That is super cool, and I feel like you might have answered this question, but still want to throw it in there to see if we can get some more good nuggets out of it. But is there a kind of formula or skills or a playbook that an owner can learn to develop in order to position them for growth, or is it so specific on a market by market basis that it's more important in order to be able to just have that specificity?
Yeah, absolutely. I do get asked a different version of this question a lot. I would say there are key things that apply across the board for sure. So for growth, you want to use your existing business as a testing ground. You don't want to expand too soon before you have proven success, but you want to essentially wait and replicate something that's working really well. Another thing is that you should always be looking for opportunities for exposure. So your goal should always be to get new people in the door. First-time visits are really that key first metric, of course, followed by loyalty, which I'm sure we'll get into. But we sometimes hear at ClassPass from prospective partners, they're already filling their classes, their classes are full. They don't really need to partner with ClassPass or another kind of tool that generates additional exposure and revenue. And that's kind of a red flag for me, right? That's a red flag that someone's done the really hard work. It's incredibly difficult to build a studio business, a fitness business that people love, that they're dedicated to, that they're going to. And so if you're not looking for how to kind of meet that additional demand, it's likely someone else will. And so you never want to be in a place where you've already reached your capacity and you can't capitalize on that demand, whether it means, I'm already filling X percentage of my class spots, or I don't have enough instructors, for example, to expand my schedule and add additional time slots. You always want to be in that position to grow and thinking about it across the board.
We keep coming back to that word grow. I think that's a word that on everyone's mind these days, whether you're a new business just getting started, opening up a new studio, or even you're already existing but maybe been stagnant for a while, so you're looking at different opportunities to grow the business. I'd be curious to know if you see there's any common mistakes that either of those groups make as they're trying to grow the business, and kind of, is there some kind of personal component to it where people fear failure, so they always think they can get themselves out of a specific metric? And is that kind of the reason why people often make these mistakes and continue with them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think this applies to all things, but there's always that personal component, kind of what's your mindset, what's your outlook, kind of knowing what your blind spots are can be really helpful as an owner to make sure you're not falling into that trap. And I think one interesting way to make sure you're doing that is to always be open to feedback, especially from your staff. So if you build a team, even your instructors and staff, your clients, where feedback is part of the process, you'll empower your staff who know your business really well. They know your clients really well to give you feedback, and you'll be able to kind of learn and grow. I think another way that owners almost get caught up in their heads, I would say, is that they move too fast. So, fitness, again, over the last 7 years plus has grown exponentially. People get really excited about a new opportunity to move into an up and coming fitness market or a specific deal. Perhaps it's a partnership with a developer or something like that, where, they think this is the key to success moving forward. And they become so committed to executing it, opening up that new space, they kind of have a blind spot. I always tell owners, everyone should have a walk-away point. I would say, especially pre-COVID, the most common reason a studio fails, aside from kind of class experience, is that they're paying such a high rent cost that they couldn't make it work no matter how well they do. So I think it's about tracking the right metrics and then knowing when to take a step back and really focus on iterating something before you focus on growing the business. It's a really, really tough thing to balance, but once you crack that, you can kind of be successful across all areas and certainly in different locations.
And I know we've talked previously, but you mentioned it again here, the walk away point. And this is something that really interests me. I'm curious to know, is this more than likely a financial element from a walk away point, or does it encompass other elements as well?
Yeah, I would say when you're thinking more of a formula, something that applies to everyone, it's going to be financial. So you really have to know your business as an owner, and that means knowing your financials. You can have a thriving studio with people who love what you offer, who come back all the time and give you great ratings and tell their friends. But at the end of the day, if you're not profitable or you don't have a path to profitability, it's not going to work. We know that fitness especially is not a high cash flow business, especially in-person fitness. It costs a lot to get up and running. And so you have to know your financials or hire someone if that's not your area of expertise. So I always talk about kind of coming more from the relationship management style. Prior to this role at ClassPass over the last few years, the data portion, the finance portion of the expansion role I have was not necessarily my forte. It didn't come naturally to me, or at least that's the story I told myself. So it's about kind of working with people who are great at that, understanding how you learn, and really evolving over time, because at the end of the day, no matter how great or not so great you are at managing your financials, it's going to be the key to a successful business.
That's awesome. And a big thing that I take away from that is essentially know your strengths and weaknesses, focus on your strengths, find people in order to be able to perform the areas where you're weak at much better than you ever could. With that kind of being said, are there any other general best practices that you think we can learn from, specifically from the data, that a brand should follow to create more loyalty and engaged customers?
Yes, absolutely. So I would say you really want to marry kind of high tech and high touch when you're thinking about loyalty and engagement, right? It makes sense. You want to automate certain things, like I said, that don't require a human. It doesn't require your unique skill set or someone on your staff to execute, like the smart tools that I mentioned, or collecting ratings and reviews and averaging them and seeing, what are my ratings for first-time users versus everyone else, which is something we offer at ClassPass, and it's really powerful for partners. What are those average scores? How are they trending over time? Tracking, first-time visits and repeat visits, but you want to marry it with that high touch. It's never one or the other. So it's qualitative data and quantitative data that's going to help you really unlock loyalty and engagement, which are two super key metrics. I think what people often forget as well is that you can create your own data. So I often suggest to studio owners, partnering with ClassPass or other third-party partners is great for giving you this bigger picture, for really pointing you in the right direction, using algorithms, sending reports, helping you crunch the numbers and know how to cut it. But you can also survey your own clients directly. So people love giving their opinion, and making sure, again, to have a rating system where it's quantitative and you can see over time what are the trends, what are people saying, how am I scoring in these areas, but then always that open feedback, right? People want to tell you how they think, and a lot of the gems you're going to get are based on the feedback portion. It's not just the number scoring.
100%. And on the kind of the discussion of loyalty and engagement, I feel a lot of us kind of look at that and think of them as synonymous, the same thing. Is there a difference in the way that you look at it between loyalty and engagement? Does one drive the other? And if so, is there one that we should be focusing on?
Yeah, absolutely. So at ClassPass, we think of loyalty as how likely is someone to return to your studio. We actually have a loyalty score that we use to measure loyalty, and it's essentially that, a measure of how often someone comes to your studio and their monthly cycle on ClassPass. It also pulls in something really powerful, which is the likelihood of recommending your studio to others. So you can refer friends via ClassPass. A lot of partners, of course, have a referral program that can be really powerful. That takes the most loyal customers and really ensures that you're maximizing them in terms of driving new visits from those loyal users. I would say engagement is how someone interacts with your brand end to end. So that can be on-demand or virtual classes that you just introduced. It could obviously mean social media via email. Are people interacting with your brand on social? Are they liking your posts and opening your emails? It's in person again, high tech and high touch. Are your instructors engaging with people after class? Things like that. And so those are both equally important metrics. And I think depending on where you are in your business, you'll know which one's more important. I think engagement is much more relevant for those first time visits. And then in terms of expansion, kind of want your brand to precede itself, especially if you're expanding into a new market. So being really clear as to what your brand perspective is can be really useful for existing and new locations. And then loyalty, that's your bread and butter. But if you do it well, you can also use loyalty, like I said, to drive new visits to your studio.
Awesome. And I feel like you hit a bunch of them already, and there was some good nuggets in there. But maybe to tie the bow on it for everybody who's listening today, is what metrics do you think are important in order to be able to analyze at the gym and studio loyalty and engagement?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say for loyalty, we like to say at ClassPass, try to get a customer to visit your studio twice in 1 month. It doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but that's how they start to bake your studio into their routine, especially on ClassPass. ClassPass users tend to be millennials. They like variety. They like to experience new things, take classes with friends, etc. You can also look at your direct client base and see what the most common kind of frequent visitor, how many times they come to your studio, and really focus on that metric. Focus on things that drive that metric up. One thing you can do is run a challenge, right? It's the beginning of the year. People want to get back into their routine. Run a challenge where if you take X number of classes per week or month, you get entered into a drawing, or you get some special event after class or some swag, something like that. And another really powerful thing is referral programs. So how can you incentivize your existing users to bring people back? That's a really important metric. Try and get everyone who has a direct membership with your studio to invite one friend. Maybe give them free passes for their friend. Again, it's kind of paying money up front, but it's going to pay off in the long term, because that new client acquisition can be expensive. But if I'm kind of going to my friend, I'm sure this is same for you both. If my friend recommends a class to me, I'm much more likely to take it. And actually, we found at ClassPass that people are 30% less likely to cancel a class that they book because of a friend invited them. And so again, it's a really powerful metric.
Definitely. And speaking of metrics, I know for ClassPass, data is very important. I think everyone realizes the importance of it, especially when you're thinking about growth. What we're basically trying to do is predict the future, right? And make sure we're prepared to access that. So we don't have a crystal ball, but Shari, you do have lots of great data at ClassPass. So I was hoping you can look into the crystal ball for us a little bit and tell us about maybe some of your expectations or what you anticipate for trends in 2021, considering the data you've accumulated over the past months and years.
Yeah, this is really exciting. We always put together a really robust trends report at the end of every year. And certainly 2020 was an interesting one, unlike one we have seen before. I would say a big stat, and I talked about this on Good Morning America, but there was a 400% increase in the number of outdoor classes being offered by studios in 2020. You know, you're taking advantage of the ability to hold classes, the fresh air, and we think that's going to continue, especially in those cities that have more space. So easier access to outdoor space and warmer weather. We've seen studios invest in a unique setup for that, you know, holding classes in parking lots, under tents, or even on rooftops. And so, you know, our partners have invested in this equipment, heaters, et cetera, and we definitely think that that will increase. Another trend that is likely to stay is lunchtime workouts. So lunchtime workouts saw a 67% increase in popularity. And for the first time ever, 12 p.m. noon is the most popular class time. And also Wednesday is the most popular day to work out. So for years, it was Tuesday night, tended to be the most popular time to take class, kind of beginning of the week at night. Obviously, that's shifted massively, and we expect it to continue. Corporate wellness is a big trend. So a lot of companies, ClassPass has a corporate wellness program. We partner with a lot of companies that offer ClassPass memberships to their employees. And we're seeing these companies engage their employee base through workouts. So instead of a Zoom happy hour or something like that, people are a little bit burnt out on that, but everyone wants to move. They feel better if they move. They're more productive. We really think that lunchtime workouts will continue.
Gotcha. I was going to ask you a follow-up question, and the question was going to be about how COVID impact the numbers, but it sounds like you already said based upon the trends, because I'm thinking about it from a point of view of the lunch workout. I think, is that also more popular now because people are working remotely, so it's a little bit easier potentially to get to the destination?
100%. Yes, absolutely. As long as, whereas before you would have to commute, maybe have to take a shower. So that lunchtime workout, even if it was 45 minutes, really required over an hour, and it was a little bit too hard to pull off. Now, as long as you can kind of look Zoom presentable, you can really do that 45-minute workout. And so we're seeing people definitely take advantage of that.
Gotcha. And then, of course, outdoor, I would imagine, was also driven by that as well.
Yeah, same there. Outdoor for sure. People are really loving. Obviously, nature is calming. It definitely helps. But of course, in 2020, it was really the only way that most people could work out at studio partners. And we really actually expect people to head back to class. So COVID obviously impacted it massively, but we have a lot of data about people's desire to return to class, which is really exciting.
Excellent. Maybe outdoor classes are a little bit difficult in New York right now whenever you have the snow, etc. But definitely an interesting trend. Curious, when you look at the data and you're looking at 2021, was there like any kind of big surprises to you? They don't necessarily have to be huge trends, but something that caught your eye?
Yeah, for sure. So heavy equipment classes are actually pretty popular as we look into 2021. At first, kind of seeing cycling and reformer Pilates, they're not necessarily always the most popular genres. Really, at the beginning of lockdown, yoga was super popular and HIIT always does really well. But we're seeing a lot more engagement with reformer Pilates and cycling classes that require equipment. I think there was actually a 30% increased demand for cycling and almost 20% for reformer Pilates since the studios have reopened. So we're seeing people kind of want to go back to those class types that they couldn't access during COVID. Another kind of cool and somewhat surprising trend is fitness travel, I guess you could call it. So I talked about this on Good Morning America, but more than half of members have tuned in for classes that are taught in other cities. So, people based in North America are likely to take a class stream from London or Sydney or Amsterdam, and vice versa. So people are experiencing different workouts that they wouldn't have access to normally, and can even take class with friends internationally, depending on the time difference. And then there were kind of less surprising stats, I would say. Restorative fitness is very popular in 2020 and likely to continue, again, mirroring how COVID is continuing. For the first time ever, meditation and stretching were in the top 10 on-demand activities booked through ClassPass. If you had told me that in 2020 at the beginning, I would certainly be surprised. We tended to see, people want to work out, they want to go hard, but we're seeing, the need to kind of pull back and take care of that mental energy, I guess, obviously, as a result of COVID.
For sure.
COVID has definitely impacted the industry in a lot of different ways. One of my favorite quotes, though, is "Never let a good crisis go to waste." How do you personally feel that this applies to our industry?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said in the beginning, COVID, the crisis has been unlike any challenge that the industry has seen. The whole thing has shut down overnight, and it's affected the entire community, and especially these studio partners, the owners that I work with that have worked so hard, invested so much in their businesses over the years. So can't understate that. But to your point, a lot of studios have stayed agile. If you think about it, I kind of believe everything's an example of everything else. Everything's kind of a microcosm of everything else. So that same agility and innovation that you teach in classes, that you teach in workouts, really applies in this case. So we saw immediately ClassPass pivoted specifically to allow our partners to offer live stream and on-demand workouts, and 5,000 of them have started streaming, and it's actually allowed them to get access to a global audience. So I work with studio partners now who previously were only in one location, one city, and now, you know, we can provide data that says people are loving your classes in these other markets, in these other areas. Maybe you should look into opening a new studio in this location. And so we really think that digital is going to continue. We're going to see essentially an omni-channel approach, so a hybrid approach. And so especially if partners can stream live classes that they're teaching in person and kind of do double duty. So you're teaching a class in the studio, you're also filming it and live streaming it or offering it as VOD. Anything that doesn't interrupt their normal flow and is profitable and makes sense moving forward, we think they'll continue. So it's really, you know, in a way, these owners have gotten the ability to adapt in real time. Like your studio can get shut down for any reason. I've worked with so many partners over the years. Unfortunately, this has happened too, whether there's a leak in the, you know, the water line, or, you know, a deal with the landlord falls through, or you have to close for another reason. Our partners now have a playbook where they can still, you know, maintain their engagement within their community and generate revenue without necessarily only offering in-studio classes, even though we know that is kind of the bread and butter and what people love the most.
Yeah, that is definitely super cool to learn about people taking advantage of this as an opportunity. How about if you kind of zoom out a little bit and think about, you know, 3, 6, 12 months down the road? Do you see any downstream challenges or opportunities that are available to gyms and studios?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there is an end in sight. Thankfully, the vaccine news is great news. Lots of options there. But again, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for people to feel comfortable getting back to studios. They want to know what safety precautions are being taken, and rightfully so. At ClassPass, we actually launched an industry-wide database that catalogs up-to-date safety information and those precautions that each studio is taking. And we offer it to our clients at the point where they're booking class. So they can see, are there capacity restrictions, additional sanitation, contactless check-in, temperature checks, etc., to really make people more comfortable with coming back to class. Like that will be a challenge. That said, you know, the surveys we've held so far are really hopeful in terms of 92% of respondents hope to return to in-person fitness and gyms in 2021. And actually 40% of them plan to return exclusively to in-studio workouts once they feel safe and comfortable. So I think the challenge is that last part, just making sure that they feel safe and comfortable and really baking that into your client experience, whether directly or through something like ClassPass.
Definitely. And then from my end, before I hand it over to Derek to go into some of the audience questions, where do you think the industry is going from here, specifically with increased consumer options coming from Apple and Fitness Plus, Peloton, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. So we think it's likely that people will embrace more of a hybrid workout routine. So of course, we've all been pushed. I personally would not have done this myself, but to explore at-home workout options. They can be more convenient. It can cut down on commute time, and I can do that lunchtime workout, like I said, at 12 p.m., or experience options with a London or Amsterdam or Sydney-based studio that I wouldn't be able to experience otherwise through live stream and on demand from that fitness travel. But you really can't replace that in-person connection. And our users are really excited to kind of come back in class. So I think for those workouts that don't require a lot of equipment, like body weight HIIT or yoga or meditation, they may stay at home. But especially for studios that require equipment or, you know, that require space, we definitely think that people will return back to in-person as soon as possible. Like I said, 92% of our respondents that we surveyed say that they want to do that in 2021, and 40% want to do it exclusively as soon as they feel safe and comfortable.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems to be quite a of all the non-agreed upon things in the world, this tends to be one of the ones that most people agree upon as far as that hybrid approach. So I'm actually looking at one of the audience questions, and I guess it's kind of related to the ClassPass product as well in general. So you had mentioned like the virtual component to it. They were wondering if you also have the ability to do like recorded sessions later from these studios that you partner with.
Yeah, so via ClassPass, you can offer live stream classes, and someone can book that using ClassPass. And we also have ClassPass at Home video on demand. So you can offer videos that ClassPass users can watch on demand as they please. And we definitely saw an evolution and more of a desire for that after the initial kind of at-home live stream demand tapered off. And over the summer, where people were kind of having Zoom fatigue, wanted to work out more on their schedule, realizing that this was going to be a long-term thing with COVID. And so they evolved more towards wanting something on demand that they can kind of play at their leisure. So you can certainly offer those through ClassPass.
I like the phrase you used, Zoom fatigue. I'm going to start using that as well.
Yeah, very real.
Don't worry, I'll give you the credit though, Shari, whenever I use it.
I wish I made it up.
And then the other question I wanted to get to, the last question from the audience that I wanted to ask you, it's actually looks like you've done a bit of inspiring. Someone has probably looked you up on the internet, has seen you on Good Morning America, etc., and they're actually more interested to learn more about your success in the business. And I guess they're kind of this relating to your advancement within the industry. What would you kind of credit that success to?
Yeah, absolutely. I really think it's about having a growth mindset. This is something early on I learned at ClassPass. It's the advice I always give, especially as people are coming on to ClassPass or kind of struggling with the massively changing fitness landscape. At ClassPass, we've had to evolve our business model over time. We've had to adjust our offerings kind of countless times to move towards the place we're currently now, which is a more sustainable model where incentives are aligned and everybody's working towards the same goal. I really think the more you resist change, the more pain you create for yourself. And so I've really been successful by expecting change. And when it comes, I would say like rising to the challenge, knowing it's inevitable, but my reaction is up to me. And so as soon as I figured that out, I expected change to happen. And when it happened, I was more ready to navigate it moving forward, which has allowed me, as I said, to kind of develop more of the data focused and finance skills that are needed in a role like this, marrying with the things that come more naturally to me, which is the relationship management and more of those qualitative skills, I would say.
Excellent.
Yeah, that is an excellent response, and kind of along the same lines. This is one of the questions that we like to ask all of our panelists who are joining us, which is, what is the best advice that you've ever received, and then what's also the best advice that you think you've ever given?
Yeah, I would say I think forgiven. One of the things I say all the time to the team and again to the owners is the growth mindset. Be ready for change, accept change. I personally believe the best advice I've received is similar. It's kind of don't take anything personal. So the majority of the time, people's opinions are more a reflection of what's going on in their own world, of their own situation, than it is of you. And so whether it's related to someone having a different opinion or preference, in class, if I received a 3-star rating, I can kind of understand that this is feedback, and I could take it personally and make it mean something about myself as an instructor, my abilities, etc. Or I could say, I wonder if they left a comment. Like, let me see if I can adjust this. Is this something I want to take into consideration so that the next person has a better experience? I think not taking things personally, it really just frees up the mental space. It takes the pressure off and allows you to focus on being more creative and productive, instead of kind of staying in your own head and really, like we were saying before, like ruminating and being stuck if something's not working.
Yeah, I love that. And those both go very hand in hand as well and complement each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And then maybe last question, also designed in order to be able to help those who are listening to be able to expand their knowledge and learn. Is there a book that you personally recommend to the partners that you're working with, or that you just personally like and has helped you?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, right now I'm reading Unleashed by Frances Fry. So it was recommended to me by a friend. She's an amazing leadership coach, and she's focused on a lot on company culture. So I love this book because no matter if you have, you're a studio owner, you have a team of 2 people, or you lead a massive team and organization, there are so many tidbits in that book, Unleashed, that have helped me personally grow as a leader. Everyone can be a leader. And so I love recommending that book. It's been great so far.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to have to add that to my list as well. I haven't had the chance to read it. But with that being said, Shari, thank you so much for joining us for the Fit Nation Lunch and Learn. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure that many people who are joining us are going to be taking away a lot of nuggets. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to this again so that this way I can take some of those things down as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been so fun to chat.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Shari. I know personally, I'm going to try to not take things personally. That's something I struggle with. So I'm already thinking about how I can implement that advice.
I love it. Yeah, it's a human nature to do it, right? It's hard to not do it, but it definitely is transformative.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Until next time.
Of course.